Tonight we travel back tens of thousands of years to a world covered in ice where endless winds howled across the frozen plains, and survival itself was a nightly challenge. But within the stone hearts of deep, echoing caves, our ancestors found warmth, safety, and a kind of peace that modern life rarely grants. This is the story of how cavemen, against all odds, managed to rest, to dream, and to sleep soundly through the most brutal winters in human history. Before we begin, if you enjoy wandering through time with stories told softly and slowly, I invite you to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment below. Tell me where you're listening from, whether it's late at night in the United States, early morning in Europe, or a cold evening in Canada, and what time it is where you are. Now, settle in. Pull your blanket a little closer, let your breathing slow, and imagine the flicker of a fire painting the walls of a cave in soft, dancing light. Let's begin. The air outside was sharp, biting with the promise of snow long before the first flakes arrived. The sun hung low in the sky for only a few hours each day, casting a pale golden glow over the valley before sinking behind the hills. The wind moved endlessly through the trees, whispering of the season's hardships to come. For the small clan that called this land home, the signs were unmistakable. The birds had fled south weeks ago, and the rivers had begun to freeze along their edges, trapping fallen leaves beneath the clear ice. The mammoths that once grazed nearby had vanished to distant feeding grounds, and only the crunch of frost beneath bare feet remained to remind them of the passing herds. They knew the time had come to retreat to their cave, a dark stone hollow carved into a cliffside, half hidden by hanging roots and tangled brush. Within those walls they would spend the next moons, surviving the cold, and more importantly, resting through it. To the cavemen, sleep was not a luxury. It was a shield against exhaustion and despair, a way to preserve energy when food was scarce. Inside, the air was cool but still. The smoke of an old fire lingered faintly, curling toward cracks in the stone ceiling. Along one side, hides of bear and deer were stacked thickly to soften the ground, and against the far wall, bundles of dried grass waited to be laid out as bedding. In this dim light, shadows from the fire danced over the ancient paintings etched by hands long gone, marks of survival, of memory, of belonging. The eldest among them, a man with silver hair tangled beneath a fur hood, knelt near the hearth, coaxing sparks from stone. Each flicker was a small promise that warmth would return. As the flames caught, the others gathered around him, men, women, and children, each wrapped in furs that still smelled faintly of earth and pine. The night would be long. The world outside was already freezing solid. But here, in this hidden shelter of stone and warmth, the clan prepared to rest, not just to endure winter, but to sleep through it in quiet resilience, as they had done for generations untold. As night deepened outside, the cave began to breathe with a rhythm of its own. The wind howled across the entrance, but inside, the air grew heavy with the scent of smoke, pine resin, and warm fur. The fire cracked softly, its glow licking the walls, turning the cold stone into something alive and protective. Around the hearth, the clan gathered closer. The flicker of light revealed their faces, worn and weathered, yet calm. Each expression held the quiet understanding that the world beyond the cave would be merciless for many moons. But for now, this fire was their sun, and this cave was their world. The eldest, still kneeling near the flames, murmured softly to himself, a pattern of words passed down through generations. It wasn't language as we know it, but a kind of low chant, rhythmic and soothing. The sound was like the heartbeat of the tribe, steady and ancient. The others listened, lulled by its cadence, as if each tone carried the warmth of the fire deeper into their bones. In the shadows, a woman spread thick layers of hides near the rear wall, forming sleeping nests for the children. She pressed her palms into the fur, testing its softness, ensuring that no cold air seeped through the cracks of stone beneath. Beside her, a young man stacked dried branches near the hearth, careful to keep them within reach for the long night ahead. Outside, snow had begun to fall, slowly at first, then thick and silent, blanketing the valley in a softness that swallowed all sound. The world beyond the cave was vanishing beneath white. Even the stars disappeared behind the clouds. One by one, the clans settled down. The children curled together like small animals beneath the hides, their breaths shallow and even. The adults stayed awake a little longer, watching the fire, feeding it bit by bit. Every spark that leapt into the air was precious. Soon, the steady rhythm of sleep filled the cave. The flicker of flames painted soft gold across the stone walls, revealing the faded marks of ancient hands, prints pressed by ancestors who had likely slept in the same spot countless winters before. The firelight shimmered on those handprints, making them seem almost alive, and for a moment it felt as though the past itself was watching over them, keeping the night gentle, keeping the cold at bay. By the middle of the night, the cave was wrapped in a deep stillness. Only the faint crackle of burning wood broke the silence. Smoke coiled lazily upward, lingering near the ceiling before escaping through a narrow gap that had been carefully carved generations ago, a design born not of luck, but of long observation and quiet wisdom. The clan understood the cave as a living thing. They knew its moods, its sounds, its breath. When the wind shifted outside, it moaned through the entrance, and the smoke bent in reply. When frost crept closer, they could feel it, an invisible chill that made them draw nearer to the fire, pulling their hides tighter. Their world was reduced to light and shadow. The flickering orange glow revealed the curve of the stone walls, rough yet comforting, while darkness pooled in the corners like deep water. In that half-light, the cave became both vast and intimate, an entire universe contained within the embrace of earth. The eldest man stirred in his sleep, his breath slow, his body curled near the hearth. The warmth radiated outward, reaching those sleeping farther away. Beside him, one of the younger hunters turned over, the soft fur beneath him muffling every sound. His dreams were simple, visions of the hunt, of the endless white plains where mammoths moved like mountains through the snow. A few sparks drifted up and died, and for a time everything was still. Then faintly came a distant sound, the low groan of ice shifting somewhere beyond the valley. The mountains themselves were alive, their frozen veins expanding and cracking under the cold. The sound was enormous, yet far away, like thunder that rolled across another world. The children stirred, but did not wake. The older woman, half dreaming, reached out and laid a hand over one of them, whispering a wordless comfort. Her hand was warm, the gesture instinctive. In this frozen age, touch was as sacred as fire. The smoke hung like a veil, softening the air and blurring the edges of everything. It carried the scent of pine and ash, a perfume of survival, and beneath it all there was a rhythm, a slow harmony between fire, breath, and stone. Outside, the snow continued to fall without pause. The entrance of the cave was nearly buried now, and the faint glow of dawn would be hidden for days. Yet inside they slept deeply, as if the world had been reduced to nothing but the sound of the fire's heart beating in the dark. The night had deepened into that strange, timeless quiet that only comes when snow falls endlessly. The fire had burned low, reduced to a glowing bed of coals that pulsed softly in the dark. A faint red light shimmered over the walls, dim yet constant, like the heartbeat of the earth itself. Within that half-light, the clan slept soundly. Their bodies were bundled close together beneath the thick furs, their breath mingling in a slow, collective rhythm. To an outsider, it might have seemed a small miracle that in such bitter cold, where even trees froze to silence, these fragile humans could sleep so deeply. But their rest was no accident. It was an inheritance, a way of life learned through countless winters. In their dreams, the boundaries between the real and the remembered blurred. The young hunter saw the endless plains beneath a blue winter sky where herds of reindeer moved like ripples of wind. A woman dreamed of summer berries, of green leaves brushing her fingers, of sunlight spilling through trees. The old man dreamed of voices, soft, echoing ones that called from beyond the cave walls, like the whispers of those who had lived and slept there long before. Sometimes their dreams seemed to belong not just to them, but to the cave itself. The shapes on the walls, the handprints, the faded drawings of mammoths and deer, seemed to glow faintly in the dark, as if touched by the fire's memory. Each mark carried its own story, etched by ancestors who had survived winters even harsher than this one. Above the sleeping clan, tiny droplets formed where warm breath met the cold stone. They glimmered faintly, catching the last of the fire's light before falling silently onto the furs below. The air was thick with warmth now, a fragile bubble against the endless frost outside. The wind no longer howled. It sighed instead, as though exhausted, brushing gently at the blocked cave entrance. The snow had sealed them in completely, a white barrier against the storm. But there was no fear here. The cavemen understood this rhythm. Winter would come, snow would bury them in silence, and when the time was right, they would emerge again into the light. For now, they slept as the earth slept, wrapped in stone, smoke, and dream. The night passed not in hours, but in heartbeats, each one echoing softly into the darkness. While the others slept, one figure remained awake, a young woman with dark hair and steady eyes. She sat close to the fire, knees drawn beneath a heavy fur, her hands extended toward the coals. She was the night's firekeeper, chosen not for strength, but for patience and calm. In their small clan, this role was sacred. The fire was more than warmth. It was life itself, a fragile flame that guarded every breath within the cave. She listened to the soft chorus of sleep around her, the slow, steady breathing of her kin, the occasional crackle of embers, and far off, the muted whisper of the storm outside. Beyond the cave's mouth, snow piled higher with each passing hour, and the world was now a muffled dream of white and silence. But here inside, she could feel the slow pulse of heat radiating through the stone, fighting back the cold inch by inch. She stirred the ashes gently with a stick, watching tiny sparks leap into the air before vanishing. Each spark reminded her of something fragile, like the short flicker of life in such a vast, frozen world. She reached for a branch, dry and hollow, and placed it upon the coals. It caught slowly, its edges glowing, then blossomed into a soft, orange flame that brightened the walls once more. The cave responded almost like a living creature. Shadows moved across the painted stone, twisting the figures of mammoths and deer into motion. For a moment it seemed the old hunters danced again, their spears raised against the endless night. The firekeeper smiled faintly, half dreaming herself now, comforted by the illusion. Behind her, one of the children stirred in their sleep, murmuring softly. She turned, reached over, and adjusted the edge of the fur around the small form. The child's breathing steadied, returning to that deep, rhythmic calm shared by all who slept within the warmth. She leaned back against the wall, feeling the cold seep faintly through the stone. But exhaustion began to weigh on her eyelids. Her head dipped, rose again, then dipped once more. Even as she struggled to stay awake, the fire's glow lulled her like a cradle. The world outside was frozen and vast, but here everything had shrunk to a gentle circle of warmth and breath. At last, when she was certain the fire would hold for several hours, her eyes closed. Her breathing joined the others, soft and even. The flames continued to dance quietly, and the cave held them all in its patient arms, unmoving, timeless, eternal. Beyond the cave's entrance, the world lay buried beneath layers of snow so deep that even the tallest grasses and shrubs had vanished. The valley had become a pale desert, silent and endless, its shape softened by the weight of winter. The trees bowed under white crowns of frost, their branches snapping occasionally with sharp, echoing cracks that carried through the cold air like distant drum beats. The storm had passed, but it had left behind a quiet that was almost sacred. The air was painfully still. Each exhale from the mountains froze into glittering mist, drifting slowly downward before disappearing. No animals stirred. Even the birds had long since fled to warmer lands. Only the faint trace of the wind remained, curling through the ravine like a sigh too tired to move on. From above, the cave's mouth was barely visible, a small dent in the snow-covered cliff, hidden from everything except the patient eye of time. Inside, the humans slept and dreamed, unaware of how completely the world had changed while they rested. The snow had sealed the entrance nearly shut, leaving only a narrow slit through which a thin thread of smoke escaped, marking their fragile existence in this frozen age. The cold outside was absolute. It reached into the stones, into the roots of trees, into the bones of the earth itself. Ice grew along the edges of the river, sculpting shapes that glimmered like glass. The once flowing water now slept beneath a solid crust, murmuring faintly under the weight of frost. A pair of wolves crossed the valley in silence, their fur thick and pale, almost indistinguishable from the snow. They paused near the buried path, sniffing at the air, sensing something faint but ancient, the scent of smoke, the trace of humanity. Yet they did not approach. Some instinct told them this cave belonged to creatures who, though quiet now, carried a fire unlike any other. The wolves turned and vanished into the white, their paw prints soon erased by the wind. High above, clouds drifted across a pale sky. The sun was weak, little more than a faint silver glow that touched nothing with warmth. But the day passed regardless, slow and soundless. And deep within the cave, protected by stone and memory, the clan slept through it all, unmoving, serene, their dreams untouched by the vast loneliness just beyond their walls. Inside the cave, the air was thick with the comforting scent of warmth. Smoke from the fire blended with the earthy aroma of dried furs, creating a perfume of survival that wrapped around each sleeping body like a protective blanket. The smell was subtle, yet grounding, a constant reminder that even in the harshest winter, they were safe for now. The fire, though small, pulsed with life. Tiny sparks drifted upward, vanishing into the smoky ceiling, and the coals glowed a deep amber. Every flicker cast shadows that danced slowly across the walls, making the carved handprints and painted mammoths shimmer as if they were moving creatures from another age. The shadows stretched and recoiled in rhythm with the clan's breathing, creating a quiet symphony of light and dark. A child stirred slightly beneath the fur, eyes fluttering open to see the dancing flames. She reached out a small hand, feeling the heat radiating from the coals. Her fingers hovered just above the surface, then withdrew. She giggled softly in her sleep, a sound like wind through reeds, and curled back into the warmth beside her sibling. The elders remained near the hearth, even in dreams. Their presence was subtle but tangible, like a low hum beneath the surface of consciousness. Every movement, every sigh was a small contribution to the cocoon of comfort that kept the entire group insulated from the cold outside. Outside, the wind shifted and groaned against the frozen cliffs, but inside, the smoke and stone held it at bay. The cold pressed only faintly against the fur, unable to penetrate the careful layers the clan had built. Each layer, a hide, a mat of grass, a thick blanket of fur, was a lesson in winter survival passed down through countless generations. The quiet was not empty. It was full of life, of subtle movements, of shared warmth. Even the smallest sounds, the crack of a coal, the soft rustle of a child turning, felt significant in the stillness. They were reminders of the rhythm that held the cave together, of a life that persisted even in the face of brutal winter. As the night deepened further, the cave seemed to breathe alongside its occupants. The warmth of the fire radiated through the stone floor, seeping into the layers of fur and grass that formed the sleeping nests. Each breath of the clan mingled with the faint wisps of smoke, creating a gentle, constant pulse that made the cave feel alive, almost sentient. The eldest among them stirred slightly, adjusting a hide beneath a child. His movements were slow, deliberate, careful not to disturb the rhythm of sleep around him. Even the faintest shift of a body could ripple through the sleeping forms like a stone tossed into a still pond, and he knew this well. Every motion was measured, every gesture mindful. Outside, the world was silent. The snow-covered valley lay under a dim silver sky, and the only sounds came from the distant cracking of frozen wood or the subtle shifting of ice. Occasionally, a faint breeze found its way through a hidden crevice in the cliff, brushing gently against the cave entrance. Inside, the sound was muffled and soft, a lullaby of the frozen world. The young hunters, though asleep, were still alert in dream. Their minds wandered over snowy plains, following the tracks of animals they might hunt when the thaw eventually came. In their dreams they were swift and strong, moving without cold or hunger, their senses keen and unfaltering. The dreams were a rehearsal, a quiet preparation for the days to come. Even the fire seemed to adapt to the night. Its flames softened, flickering low and steady, providing just enough light to keep shadows at bay while allowing darkness to settle comfortably. Sparks rose and disappeared into the smoky ceiling, like tiny stars drifting into a black sky, and the warmth embraced each member of the clan like a gentle hand. All at once, the cave felt timeless. There was no past, no future, only the present heartbeat of the fire, the rhythm of breathing, the pulse of life sheltered within stone walls. Outside winter raged on, relentless and vast, but inside all was quiet, slow and calm. The cave seemed to hold memory in its very walls. Every stone, every crevice whispered of countless winters survived, of countless nights spent wrapped in furs, dreaming of spring. The faint impressions of hands pressed into stone generations ago caught the firelight, glowing softly as if the ancestors themselves were watching over the sleeping clan. The paintings, mammoths, deer, and abstract symbols, seemed almost alive in the flickering glow. Each line told a story of survival, where to find shelter, which herds to follow, which winds to heed. The clan may have slept unaware of the full meaning, yet the presence of these marks offered comfort. They were reminders that others had endured before, and that endurance was possible even when the cold outside seemed endless. A young woman shifted, adjusting her blanket of furs. The scent of dried pine and smoke was thick, soothing, wrapping her in the quiet knowledge of safety. Her fingers brushed against the stone wall, tracing the rough outlines of ancient markings. She imagined the hands that had carved them, feeling a connection across time, a shared understanding of warmth and sleep and survival. Near the hearth, the elders remained half dreaming, humming softly in low tones. Their murmurs mingled with the rhythm of the fire, creating a subtle music that filled the cave's corners. The sound was steady and grounding, a reminder that even in the face of bitter cold, life continued quietly, beautifully, persistently. Outside, the frozen world shifted imperceptibly. Snowflakes, fine and crystalline, continued to settle over the valley. Ice along the river groaned and cracked faintly, echoing across the silent landscape. Yet none of it reached the hearts of those within the cave. Here, within the memory-filled walls, the clan slept deeply, their dreams cushioned by the stone and the stories it held. The cave itself seemed to exhale, as if satisfied that life endured within its chambers. The night stretched on, slow and unbroken, and the warmth of fire, fur, and shared presence became a shield against the unrelenting winter beyond. Even in sleep, the routines of survival wove themselves subtly through the cave. A mother shifted slightly, adjusting the small bundle of grass beneath her child's head, tucking in stray furs with careful hands. The motion was almost imperceptible, a gentle ritual repeated countless times, a quiet devotion to warmth and comfort. The fire continued to murmur in its low, steady way. Tiny embers rose lazily, curling toward the smoky ceiling before fading into darkness. The light traced patterns across the walls, illuminating jagged stone and ancient handprints alike. Shadows stretched and shrank with the flames, moving over the painted mammoths as if the animals themselves had awakened in a dream. A young man, his face partially hidden beneath layers of fur, stirred just enough to feel the comforting weight of the blanket above him. He breathed in the scent of smoke and dried hide, a scent that had marked every winter of his life. The smell carried reassurance, an invisible signal that here, in this circle of warmth and quiet, he was safe. Even the smallest sounds held significance. A faint shuffle of feet, the soft sigh of fur brushing against stone, the crackle of coals, each one resonated in the stillness, a subtle reminder that life persisted quietly. Outside, the snow drifted in silence, muffling the world beyond, but inside, the cave was alive with these gentle echoes. The elders' low murmurs blended with the rhythm of breathing, forming a steady undertone to the night. It was as if the cave itself was alive, attuned to the slow, comforting pulse of its occupants. Every touch, every movement, every breath became part of the night's quiet ritual, a dance of survival and care, unhurried and patient. Wrapped in fur and firelight, the clans slept through the hours, their bodies and spirits shielded by the familiarity of routine, by the quiet music of the hearth, and by the ancient stone walls that held the memory of generations. Deep within the cave, the stone walls seemed to speak, not in words, but in presence. Their rough surfaces absorbed the warmth of the fire and the weight of the sleeping bodies, holding it all silently, offering comfort in ways the clans scarcely noticed. Every crease and fissure was a reminder that they were not alone, that the cave itself had watched over countless generations. A small child turned in sleep, curling tighter into the furs that surrounded them. Their breath was soft, a gentle rhythm that mingled with the low hum of the fire and the almost imperceptible creaks of the cave settling under the weight of ice outside. The child's hand brushed the edge of a stone, tracing a shallow groove left by ancestors. In dreams, that groove became a path through a snow-covered forest, leading them safely back to warmth. The elders, though deeply asleep, seemed almost awake in their awareness. Tiny movements, a shift of a shoulder, a finger brushing a hide, sent ripples through the circle of bodies, subtle gestures that protected, nurtured, and reinforced the shared cocoon of safety. Even sleep was an act of care in this frozen world. Outside, the snow continued its silent descent, each flake a crystalline whisper against the already thick blanket covering the valley. Ice groaned softly along the riverbank, sending faint vibrations through the earth that the cave subtly absorbed. These sounds, though muted, reminded the sleeping clan of the vastness beyond, and yet also highlighted the sanctuary they had found. The fire's glow flickered, casting warm light over the painted walls. Mammoths and deer seemed to move with the rhythm of the flames, almost breathing in time with the sleeping humans. For a moment, the boundary between dream and reality softened, the past and present intertwined, and the cave's ancient memory became a living, protective presence. Here, in this union of stone, smoke, and flesh, sleep was not just rest. It was a continuation of life itself, a gentle weaving of generations that allowed the clan to endure the harshest winters without fear. The cold outside pressed relentlessly against the cave walls, as if winter itself were testing their sanctuary. Every gust of wind rattled loose stones at the entrance, sending tiny echoes through the hollow space. But inside, the fire's warmth clung stubbornly to every surface, a protective veil against the frozen world beyond. The clan slept soundly, their bodies pressed close for shared heat. Each layer of fur, each bundle of grass and hide, formed a carefully constructed nest that kept the chill from penetrating. Their hearts beat in slow, steady rhythms, a quiet orchestra of life, muffled against the weight of the stone around them. In one corner, a young woman dreamed of running through snowfields, her bare feet leaving delicate prints in the untouched white. In her dream, the wind no longer bit, and the cold was a distant memory. Her chest rose and fell in perfect harmony with the fire's low crackle, as though her very being had become one with the warmth around her. The elders murmured faintly in their sleep, their voices blending with the sound of crackling embers. They shifted minimally, careful not to disturb the fragile cocoon of comfort. Every motion, however slight, was purposeful, a silent testament to their understanding of the cold and their knowledge of how to survive it. Outside, snowflakes piled higher, thickening the barrier between the cave and the world beyond. The landscape vanished beneath a continuous white, and even the mountains seemed softened, reduced to gentle slopes in the dim light of the hidden sun. Yet inside, all was calm. The harshness of winter could not reach these walls, these blankets, these hearts. The cave seemed to breathe along with its occupants, a gentle inhalation and exhalation that echoed softly through the stone. Life, warmth, and the quiet pulse of shared existence held the darkness at bay. Here, in this cocoon of fur, fire, and memory, the clan rested deeply, insulated from the endless cold, their dreams untouched and serene. The cave had settled into a slow, eternal rhythm. Each breath from the sleeping clan rose in soft clouds that mingled with the smoke curling toward the ceiling. The warmth of the fire wove through the fur and hides, reaching into the very bones of the sleepers, easing the tension that had built from the long day and the relentless cold outside. A child's quiet murmur stirred briefly, half a word, half a dream, before dissolving back into the stillness. The mother shifted, adjusting the edge of a fur, and the child's breathing deepened, settling into an even, calm pattern once more. Every movement was gentle, measured, a small care for life that persisted even in slumber. The fire flickered softly, sending a gentle pulse of light across the walls. Shadows traced the contours of the ancient handprints and painted animals, making them appear alive in the dim glow. For a moment, it was as if the cave itself were watching over the sleepers, breathing with them, guarding them as their ancestors had been guarded centuries before. Outside, snow drifted silently, piling over the valley and muffling every sound. Ice shifted subtly in the distant river, groaning and cracking like the earth itself, sighing under winter's weight. But the cave absorbed the chill, softening it, keeping it at bay. The world beyond was frozen and relentless, yet here all was quiet, slow, and safe. Even the faintest sounds, the scratch of a clawing animal far off, the whisper of wind through distant trees, served only to emphasize the warmth within. The rhythm of breaths, of hearts beating softly in unison, created a symphony of calm that wrapped the clan in comfort, allowing them to rest deeply through the long night. Within the cave, life flowed quietly, measured in subtle movements and gentle sounds. Each sleeper exhaled into the air, their warm breaths rising to mingle with the faint smoke of the dying fire. The heat pooled in the center, a living, glowing presence that kept the chill from reaching the layers of fur and grass beneath them. A young hunter stirred in a dream, imagining the hunt across open snowfields, the crunch of frozen earth beneath his feet, the gleam of animal eyes in the distance. Though his body remained still, his mind moved with fluid grace, rehearsing the skills that would keep him alive when the thaw came. In the cave, his dreaming was both refuge and preparation. The elders, resting near the hearth, exuded a quiet vigilance even in sleep. Their presence was a gentle weight, reassuring to those around them. Every subtle shift of a hand or a turn of the head seemed synchronized with the rhythm of the cave itself, as though they were part of its pulse, part of the life that persisted beneath the stone and fire. Outside, snow continued to blanket the valley, muffling the world into a soft, white silence. The wind whispered faintly against the cliffs, brushing the cave's entrance with icy fingers. But inside, nothing penetrated the barrier of warmth, smoke, and shared presence. Here, the pulse of life was slow, steady, and undisturbed. Even in the deepest cold, even in the harshest winter, the clan's bodies and spirits were protected. The fire, the stone, the furs, all conspired to create a sanctuary. Each heartbeat, each breath, each faint murmur of dream added to the rhythm, the quiet symphony that allowed them to endure. The night stretched on, timeless and calm, and within the cave, life continued softly, safely, uninterrupted. The fire had burned down to a gentle glow, sending long, slow shadows across the cave walls. The painted animals and handprints seemed to sway as the coals shifted, as if the ancestors themselves had awakened to watch over the sleeping clan. The shadows were never frightening. Instead, they offered a sense of continuity, a reminder that the warmth and safety of the cave had endured through countless winters. A mother shifted slightly, pulling a child closer and pressing a hand to their small, warm back. The child's breathing was soft and steady, rising and falling in perfect rhythm with the faint hum of the fire. Every small motion in the cave was synchronized with life, deliberate yet gentle, creating a lullaby of subtle sounds that filled the space without ever disturbing its stillness. Even the stone seemed to hum softly, responding to the presence of life within. Cracks and crevices carried the warmth, spreading it slowly through the walls, and every uneven surface caught the glow of the fire like a gentle reminder that the cave was alive with memory and protection. Outside, the storm had passed, leaving a frozen landscape of muted light and silent snow. The wind occasionally brushed the cliff, sending a soft echo through the cave, but the sound only deepened the sense of enclosure and safety. The world beyond was harsh, infinite, and cold, yet here life persisted undisturbed. As the night moved on, the shadows seemed to lean closer, not threatening but protective. They traced the forms of the sleeping clan, wrapping them in an invisible comfort. In this slow, measured night, the cave and its inhabitants were united. Stone, fire, fur, and breath intertwined in a quiet harmony that allowed them to endure the brutal winter outside. The cave held a profound stillness, yet it was alive with the subtle rhythm of life. Each breath from the sleeping clan rose in soft clouds, curling toward the ceiling and blending with the smoky warmth from the dying fire. The stones beneath them retained the heat, releasing it slowly, a comforting pulse that reached deep into their bones. A young woman stirred slightly, turning on her side and drawing the furs tighter around her shoulders. The faint scent of smoke mixed with pine resin clung to the air, a reminder of protection and survival. Every detail, the texture of the fur beneath her, the low glow of embers, the faint murmurs of others in sleep, created a cocoon of safety, allowing her body to sink deeper into rest. The elders, ever present even in slumber, exuded a gentle stability. Their slow movements, an adjustment here, a shift there, were barely perceptible but crucial, preserving warmth and comfort for everyone nearby. Each action, however small, reinforced the careful balance of life within the cave. Outside, snow drifted across the valley in silence. The mountains loomed in the dim light, their frozen faces reflecting nothing but the pale glow of the hidden sun. Ice along the distant river groaned occasionally, a subtle reminder of the relentless winter, yet all of it was kept at bay by the sheltering stone walls. The fire flickered one last time before settling into a soft red bed of coals. The cave seemed to breathe with the clan, a shared heartbeat connecting every sleeping form. Here, in this intimate space of stone and warmth, life endured quietly, protected by the heart of the cave and the steady pulse of the fire. Even in the deepest hours of the night, the cave was filled with a subtle sense of togetherness. The clan, though resting silently, created a network of warmth and presence. Each body, curled beneath furs and hides, contributed to a shared cocoon, a living quilt against the cold pressing at the entrance. A child nestled between two adults, their small form absorbing heat from both sides. The adults, half asleep, instinctively adjusted their positions to keep the child safe and warm. The gentle weight of their presence offered reassurance beyond words, a quiet proof that even in the harshest winter, they were not alone. The fire cast long, slow shadows over the walls, illuminating ancient markings of hands and animals. The shapes seemed to lean toward the sleepers, protective and steady. They were reminders of ancestors who had survived winters just as harsh, and the knowledge embedded in the cave walls was felt as instinct rather than thought. Outside, the snow covered every footprint, every stray branch, every sign of life. The wind whispered along the cliff face, brushing against the cave's mouth, yet none of it penetrated the cocoon of warmth within. Each subtle noise from the outside became a background rhythm, highlighting the safety and comfort that surrounded the sleeping clan. In this quiet embrace, the clan slept deeply, enveloped in the unspoken bond of togetherness. Every breath, every small movement, every shared warmth reinforced the understanding that survival was not just about fire or fur, but about the connection between those who endured together. Sleep deepened, carrying the clan into realms where the outside world could not reach. Dreams began to weave their soft patterns, blending memory with imagination, survival with wonder. Each person wandered in visions that both soothed and prepared them, rehearsing life in the frozen wilderness while remaining cradled in the cave's protective warmth. A young hunter dreamed of the plains beyond the valley, where herds of reindeer moved like living rivers across the snow. She ran among them effortlessly, the cold forgotten, her breath steady and light. Every movement in the dream mirrored the lessons she had learned, instincts honed through long days and whispered teachings by elders. The elders' dreams were quieter, filled with echoes of past winters and memories of ancestors who had walked the same stone floors centuries before. In their slumber, they revisited hunts, seasons, and the small triumphs of survival, their experiences weaving a protective rhythm into the night. Even the children dreamed of warmth and play, of summer berries and running rivers, of the sun's gentle touch on their skin. Their laughter was silent, their smiles unseen, but the energy of their dreams mingled with the smoke and heat in the cave, strengthening the cocoon that kept winter at bay. Outside, the frozen world waited patiently. Snow piled thickly, ice groaned in the distance, and the wind circled the cliffs endlessly. Yet none of it disturbed the quiet sanctuary. Inside, fire, stone, and the rhythm of breaths carried every dreamer safely through the long, harsh hours of night, allowing them to emerge whole and rested when the faint light of dawn would finally arrive. The cave seemed to hum softly with life, as if it were itself a living guardian of the sleeping clan. Every stone, every crevice, every handprint etched into the walls carried the weight of centuries, a silent reassurance that those who had endured before them had passed on their wisdom in the language of survival. Near the hearth, the last coals glowed faintly, sending warmth across the floor and up into the layers of fur and grass. The elders, their breathing steady, shifted just enough to maintain comfort for those near them, their vigilance subtle but constant even in sleep. Their presence was a tether anchoring the clan to safety as winter raged beyond the cave's mouth. The children, curled in soft nests of fur, dreamed of movement and light, of chasing shadows, of running through fields untouched by frost. Even in their sleep they were aware, in some deep, instinctive way, of the fire's pulse and the protection it offered. Every breath, every sigh, every tiny stir was cushioned by warmth and the quiet attentiveness of those around them. Outside, snow had piled nearly to the entrance, sealing the cave almost completely from the world beyond. The wind brushed against the cliff face, carrying faint echoes of the frozen valley. Yet the cave held firm. It was a haven, a sanctuary, a womb of stone and smoke where life persisted undisturbed. Within the flickering light and layered furs, the clan slept as one. The cave, the fire, and their shared presence acted as silent guardians, cradling every dream, every heartbeat, and every breath. The long winter might rage outside, but inside all was calm, slow, and enduring. The fire's glow had softened into a gentle bed of embers, but its warmth still radiated through the cave, seeping into every fur, every stone, every sleeping body. The air was thick with the comforting scent of smoke and pine, mingling with the natural musk of the humans nestled together in layered nests of survival. A young woman shifted slightly, stretching her arms beneath the furs, feeling the slow pulse of heat that had built up over the night. Her body had grown accustomed to the rhythm of the cave, the rise and fall of breathing around her, the steady glow of the embers, the subtle hum of life that never paused even in sleep. The elders remained quietly vigilant even in their slumber, a presence so steady it was almost tangible. Every small motion, a turn of a head, a shift of a shoulder, helped maintain the balance of warmth and comfort for the others. Their experience in surviving countless winters guided the unseen threads of care that held the clan together. Outside, the frozen world gleamed under a pale, hidden sun. Snow covered every tree and stone, the river lay trapped beneath ice, and the wind whispered faintly against the cliffs. Yet none of it could penetrate the sanctuary of the cave. Here, life pulsed quietly and safely, cradled by fire, stone, and shared warmth. The clan slept on, their dreams mingling with the smoke and shadows, their bodies softened by comfort and care. In this frozen world, they had found a gift beyond the bitter cold, the warmth of each other, the protection of the cave, and the quiet knowledge that even the harshest winter could not touch them while they rested together. Though the night had been long and deep, faint light began to seep through the narrow slit of the cave entrance. It was not the sun's full warmth, but a pale silver glow that brushed against the snow outside, highlighting the frost that had accumulated on the cliffs. The first hints of dawn painted the cave walls softly, blending with the lingering amber of the fire's embers. Inside, the clan remained mostly asleep, though the light stirred small movements. A child stretched beneath layers of fur, yawning softly before curling back into warmth. The elders shifted slightly, adjusting furs and blankets, preparing to awaken but still savoring the last moments of rest. Every movement was slow and deliberate, as if honoring the night that had passed. The fire had reduced to faint, glowing coals, but its warmth persisted, mingling with the residual heat of so many bodies. The cave itself seemed to exhale, a gentle pulse carrying the remnants of the night's safety and comfort. Shadows of handprints and painted animals were now softened, less vivid, yet still present, a quiet reminder of endurance, memory, and protection. Outside, the snow glimmered in the early light, silent and still. The frozen world waited patiently, vast and unyielding, yet completely separate from the calm sanctuary within. Every breath, every heartbeat inside the cave felt like a small victory, a reaffirmation of life against the harshness of winter. The clan began to stir gradually, their movements slow and peaceful. They were ready to face another day in the frozen valley, fortified by the warmth, the fire, and the enduring comfort of the cave that had kept them safe through the long, bitter night. The first rays of the hidden sun began to filter through the thin opening of the cave, casting pale, shimmering light across the stone floor. Dust motes and tiny particles of ash floated lazily in the glow, catching on the last wisps of smoke from the fire. The cave, once dominated by shadows and flickering amber, now felt calm, gentle, and patient, like a silent guardian watching the clan awaken. The sleeping forms stirred one by one. A mother lifted herself carefully, feeling the warmth of the fire and the presence of her family still resting beside her. She adjusted the furs around the children, tucking them in with soft, instinctive motions. Each small gesture was an echo of lessons learned long ago. Safety was in layers, care, and shared warmth. The elders rose more slowly, their joints stiff, but their minds steady. They stretched and inhaled the smoke-scented air deeply, letting it mingle with the coolness filtering in from the entrance. They observed the sleeping spaces, adjusting the edges of blankets and moving coals closer to maintain warmth, ensuring that the cave's rhythm continued smoothly as the day approached. Outside, the frozen valley glimmered in pale silver. The wind was quieter now, settling for a brief pause, and the snow sparkled like countless tiny crystals pressed into the frozen earth. Though the world remained harsh and unyielding, the clan's eyes reflected a quiet triumph. They had slept through the night, protected by stone, fire, and each other. Even as they began to move, the cave itself seemed to hold on to the memory of the night's warmth. The stone, the smoke, the lingering heat, it all remained, a gentle, enduring pulse beneath their feet. And as the clan prepared to face the frozen day, the comfort of the cave lingered, a promise that even the harshest winter could not take away rest, safety, or the quiet peace of survival. With the first pale light touching the entrance, the clan began their slow, deliberate morning rituals. Each movement was careful, measured, as if to honor the long night of rest and the sanctuary the cave had provided. A mother stirred the children gently, coaxing them awake with soft murmurs, and one by one, sleepy eyes blinked open, adjusting to the dim glow of dawn, mingling with the lingering warmth of the fire. The elders rose fully, checking the hearth and arranging coals to rekindle the fire's heart. They added small twigs from the carefully stored pile, coaxing sparks into soft flames that would radiate heat throughout the cave. The smell of smoke mingled with pine and earth, comforting and grounding, a subtle signal that life was continuing uninterrupted. The children stretched, their small limbs pushing through layers of fur and grass. One yawned widely, then giggled softly as an older sibling nudged them. Laughter, gentle and quiet, rippled through the cave like sunlight spilling across stone. Even in the shadowed corners, warmth lingered, softening edges and filling the space with life. Outside, the snow glimmered in the early light, the frozen valley silent and unyielding. Yet the cave was a world apart, a haven where life persisted through the harsh winter. Every sound, from the crackle of the fire to the soft rustle of furs, reinforced a rhythm of survival, a continuity of generations who had endured the cold before. As the clan completed these first small tasks of the day, they paused to inhale deeply, feeling the warmth and safety of the cave, acknowledging the night that had passed. Every breath, every small movement was a quiet celebration of life, of endurance, and of the comfort found in togetherness and the sheltering stone walls. The cave, now fully illuminated by the pale morning light, was alive with the soft sounds of movement. The clan adjusted furs, shifted sleeping mats, and gathered the remnants of the fire into a small pile to reignite for the day. Every motion was gentle and deliberate, a continuation of the rituals that had protected them through the night. The elders guided the younger members in quietly, preparing for the day ahead. One carefully inspected the hides, smoothing out wrinkles and layering them to preserve warmth. Another replenished the fire, coaxing a gentle flame that would radiate heat long after the embers had faded. The children helped in their small ways, moving sticks, arranging furs, or simply observing the rhythm of the adults, learning the silent lessons of survival. Outside, the valley remained buried beneath deep snow, the frozen world untouched and silent. The wind whispered along the cliffs intermittently, but its reach did not extend into the cave's warm embrace. Here, the clan had transformed the harshness of winter into a manageable, intimate world of stone, fur, fire, and presence. The fire flickered, sending soft shadows across the walls, tracing the ancient handprints and painted animals. The markings seemed to watch silently, as if acknowledging the continuation of life and survival. The clan, aware on some instinctive level, drew strength from this, understanding that the cave itself had been a teacher and protector for generations. With the fire rekindled, furs arranged, and the first routines of the day completed, the clan took a moment to simply exist in quiet reflection. They were ready to face the frozen day outside, fortified by warmth, care, and the enduring rhythm of life within the cave. The night of rest had strengthened them, and the lessons of survival were once again embodied in every slow, deliberate breath. At last, the cave had fully awakened with the clan. The fire crackled softly, sending gentle warmth over the stone floor and the layers of fur that cushioned every body. Morning light spilled more boldly through the entrance, illuminating the ancient paintings and handprints that adorned the walls. Each figure seemed to glow faintly, carrying the stories of countless winters before, a reminder of the endurance embedded in the stone itself. The clan began to rise slowly. Adults stretched, feeling the stiffness of long rest dissolve beneath the lingering heat. Children, still drowsy, rubbed their eyes and yawned, their small limbs stretching into the soft, insulated nests the elders had prepared. Every movement was deliberate and calm, reflecting the rhythm instilled by countless generations who had survived harsh winters in this very space. The fire burned gently, enough to chase the last chill from the cave. The elders rearranged furs and checked supplies, preparing for the day ahead while ensuring the warmth would remain. The cave, once a chamber of deep night and dreams, was now a sanctuary of life and readiness, its stone walls holding the echoes of every breath, every heartbeat from the night. Outside, the frozen valley glimmered under the pale morning sun, silent and unyielding. The wind whispered across the snow, carrying a promise of the harsh day to come. Yet the clan faced it fortified by fire, by stone, by shared warmth, and by the profound comfort of surviving another night together. As they stepped toward the cave entrance, the warmth of the night still clung to them, a reminder that even in the face of brutal winters, safety, comfort, and life persisted. They had slept, they had endured, and they were ready once again to meet the frozen world beyond. The story of this long winter night concludes here, a testament to the resilience of life, the quiet power of care, and the deep, unspoken wisdom passed through generations of those who sought rest and warmth within the shelter of the cave. The pale morning light stretched across the cave's entrance, brushing over the stone walls and painting the ancient handprints with soft gold. Dust and ash from the fire floated lazily in the air, glimmering faintly in the weak light. The cave felt alive in a different way now, no longer the deep, restful sanctuary of night, but a quiet, attentive chamber preparing for a new day. The clan stirred gradually. Children rubbed their eyes, stretching small limbs beneath layers of fur. Adults shifted slowly, taking care not to jostle anyone, allowing the warmth to remain undisturbed. The fire, still glowing softly, cast flickering light across the stones, illuminating the murals of mammoths, deer, and distant hunts as if the ancestors were greeting the new day alongside them. Outside, the valley remained frozen, silent, and vast. Yet inside, life continued quietly, measured, deliberate, and calm. Every movement, every breath, and every small adjustment reinforced the shared rhythm that had carried the clan safely through the night. The elders stirred near the hearth, carefully coaxing new sparks into life. Small twigs and branches, dried and stored for this very moment, were added to the coals. The fire blossomed gradually, warmth radiating once more through the stone and furs, chasing away the lingering chill from the long night. Children watched silently, curious and still half dreaming, learning the ancient rituals without conscious thought. Each small act, stoking the fire, arranging coals, adjusting furs, was a silent lesson in care, patience, and survival. The air filled with the comforting scent of smoke and resin, mingling with the warmth of the bodies around the fire. Outside, the frozen world glittered in the weak light, a silent contrast to the careful, protective motions inside. The fire was more than warmth. It was life, a heartbeat that anchored the clan in the present, giving strength and comfort for the day to come. With the fire burning steadily, the clan slowly began to move beyond sleep. Adults stretched, cracking joints gently, muscles loosening after the long stillness of the night. Children yawned and rolled beneath furs, then stretched their small limbs toward the warmth, basking in the firelight as if sunlight itself had entered the cave. The elders oversaw the movements quietly, guiding the younger members through subtle adjustments of furs and blankets. Even in these small, simple gestures, there was a rhythm, a harmony, a silent music of survival that had been passed down through generations. Each action was slow, deliberate, and purposeful, ensuring comfort and continuity. The cave seemed to pulse with them, holding the heat, the smoke, and the echoes of breathing. Every movement became a gentle ritual, connecting past and present, night and day, warmth and the frozen world beyond. Eventually the clan moved toward the cave entrance, ready to face the frozen landscape. The snow sparkled like countless tiny diamonds in the weak sunlight, and the wind whispered faintly, brushing over the frozen valley. Though harsh and unyielding, the world outside seemed less threatening after the sanctuary of the night. Each step was careful. The elders led, testing footing and scanning for danger. Children followed closely, their small boots crunching softly on the icy surface, while adults adjusted the layers of furs around their bodies to trap every ounce of warmth. The fire's memory lingered, a comforting pulse in their hearts as they stepped beyond the stone walls. The cave behind them remained a silent protector, its shadows and murals bearing witness to another night of endurance. Its lessons, its warmth, and its memory followed them into the frozen day. As they stood in the open valley, the clan paused, feeling the sharp, cold air on their faces, but also recognizing the life that pulsed through them. Each breath, each heartbeat was a testament to the night they had survived, the fire that had sustained them, and the care woven between them. The frozen world could be brutal, unrelenting, and vast, yet here was a small group of humans bound by warmth, shared vigilance, and generations of knowledge. They had slept deeply, they had endured the cold, and they had emerged ready for the day. The cave remained behind them, a patient guardian of the night, whispering of safety, memory, and resilience. And in that quiet reflection, they understood something essential. Survival was not only in the fire, the furs, or the stone, it was in togetherness, in careful rhythm, and in the quiet patience of life itself. Thank you for joining the clan through their long, quiet night and into the frozen morning. You've walked with them in the warmth of the cave, felt the pulse of the fire, the soft layers of fur, and the gentle rhythm of breathing and life that protected them from the harsh winter beyond. As you settle where you are, allow the calm of the cave to follow you. Imagine the warmth of the fire, the soft weight of shared blankets, and the steady rhythm of breathing surrounding you like a protective embrace. Let every heartbeat and gentle exhale guide you toward peace, comfort, and deep rest. Take a slow, calming breath, release the day's tension, and feel the serene rhythm of the night carry you into sleep. The frozen world may be vast, but within this quiet sanctuary, you are safe, warm, and calm. If you enjoyed this journey, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment, sharing where in the world you are listening and what time it is. Let the quiet endurance, shared warmth, and gentle rhythms inspire your rest tonight. Sleep peacefully and carry the calm of the cave with you into your dreams.